The White House support for Israel has become a polarizing issue within the Democratic Party, as far-left lawmakers like Ilhan Omar have pushed President Biden to force the Israelis to halt their attacks against Hamas. But Omar's stance has found a staunch critic in her district, in Dalia al-Aqida, an Iraqi-born Muslim who says Omar does not speak for her community. Dalia is now running to unseat Omar as a Republican and joins us now from Tel Aviv. Dalia, it's good to speak with you. Thank you for joining us. I wanted to start out by asking you were staunchly pro-Israel. You have said that in the past. I'm curious as to whether you are also pro-Palestinian.
Let me tell you, John, it's not a rocket science. You stand with your ally when in need. That's foreign policy 101. And Ilhan Omar, my opponent, knows exactly who our allies are, yet she chooses to stand with our enemy. That's not the first time. That's not the second time. She always does that. What we're saying, or what you asked me about, am I standing with Palestinians? Absolutely, I am for the innocent victims of the Hamas terrorists. However, accusing Joe Biden of supporting genocide, even though I'm not a supporter of his, of course, but they try to whitewash the slogan "from the river to the sea," which is clearly throughout history Palestinians used to chant it, which means that they want to wipe the Jews from Israel. So I am with the Palestinian people. I feel for the Palestinian people, but these the victims are no victims for the U.S. nor Israel. These are the victim of Hamas terrorists / the al-Jihad al-Islami / Iran / Qatar.
Yeah, I asked you because that question in that way because Bill Ackman, who's of course the big hedge fund billionaire, a Harvard alum who has sent letters to Harvard saying this rise in anti-Semitism on campus is something that can't be tolerated, has said that he's pro-Palestinian and pro-Israel. He's anti-terror, and that's what he thinks should be the position of people on these college campuses. You mentioned from the river to the sea. That's a slogan that was being chanted at a rally that Rashida Tlaib was at. She put out a tweet saying, well, that's only aspirational, which drew a strong rebuke from a fellow Democrat, Alyssa Slotkin, by saying, no, that's not aspirational. That's, in fact, code language for the destruction of Israel. You know, you're running as a Republican. You're running as a Republican, but what do you make of this divide in the Democratic Party?
I mean, who she's trying to fool? It's well-known slogan. And number two, I mean, these women and the Hamas Caucus or the Hamas squad clearly cannot find it within themselves to at least condemn what Hamas is doing, or at least say that Hamas is a terrorist group, but we are with the Palestinian people and we're trying to find a peaceful way to save the victims of these terrorist groups. But would they ever do that? Absolutely not, because there are clearly supporters of terrorists, which is very appalling, because we cannot have in our government and in our Congress people that support terrorists. Yeah. They should be expelled and they should be voted out. And that's what I'm trying to do next year.
So Ilhan Omar, who you hope to challenge in the election next year, condemned the attack of October the 7th, but clearly she does not have Biden's back when it comes to the full support of Israel to go after Hamas. She wrote, quote, U.S. policy is essentially that Netanyahu has no achievable goals in Gaza and a ground invasion risks regional war, including potential U.S. troops. And also, we should give him $14 billion in weapons with no restrictions and say there are no red lines as he bombs refugee camps. You know, you escaped Saddam Hussein's Iraq in 1988. You know what it's like to live with a repressive authoritarian regime. How would you describe Hamas, and what should Israel do in response to October 7th?
Let me tell you, I mean, these words coming from someone who said about 9/11, some people did something, and it's all about the Benjamin. So it's quite clear her stance against Israel. Number two, not only I've lived under oppression, we've suffered under the oppression until we fled the country. Although I'm a journalist, I've been a journalist for 35 years, and I've covered war zones. I've covered ISIS when in 2014, ISIS entered the city of Mosul and started persecuting Iraqi Christians, carrying the ISIS flag and chanting Allahu Akbar. Exactly what Hamas terrorists are doing. I've watched the video from the Israeli Foreign Ministry, and I've seen it actually last night. And I've seen that these people carried ISIS flag and chanted Allahu Akbar while killing the Jews.
Dalia Al-Akidi, thank you for being with us from Tel Aviv. We'll be watching your campaign closely to see how that goes.
Thank you.
Appreciate it. We'll see you again soon. Sam?
Thank you, and I invite everybody to check Dalia for Congress.
All right.
Okay.
Thank you so much for that.